All right, so
great.
we're going to just go over some of the best games ever made.
Yeah.
The games of the year, following the format of Jordan Miner's brilliant book.
Yes,
Video
hello.
Game of the Year.
I've written this book. It is called Video Game of the Year. Where that is taken from is a video game history book where the whole structure is every chapter is an essay I've written about what I think is the most important game of that year, whether it's because it's the best game or the most influential, or I just really care about it and my own opinion. It's very opinionated. There's a lot of great artwork in the book, and there's a lot of good kind of counter essays from other games writers. Tim, I asked you to be in the book, but you said you didn't see your email.
I did not. I didn't look at my email for a period of like 6 months at one point because my YouTube videos are too quasi. So
I mean, they're books in of themselves.
I tend to not look at my email. But once I did, I was like, that sounds cool. But then the book was already out, and I was like, well. And then I met you quite
you're here now.
Serendipitously, and we talked about doing this. Yeah. And this is my penance.
This is great. No, this is more than, everyone who's in the book is great, but this is great.
Yeah, this is us here. So, Jordan.
I didn't know that nobody else on the Long Island Retro website was going to be wearing a tuxedo. I thought this was like, I don't know. I thought...
Pikachu's wearing a kind of tuxedo.
Pikachu rules, dude.
He's no Trubbish. We were talking about top Pokemon the other day, and mine is Trubbish, #1 with a bullet.
It's definitely the most New York
You're
Pokemon.
clapping. I saw that. Thank you. I don't watch the TV show. I'm sorry. Right. No offense.
But let's get into it because we have quite a few years.
Quite a few years. You picked 11 years,
decade.
right?
I picked 10 years and 1 decade.
Yeah.
But before we do, let's just get this out of the way. You know these games, right?
Yeah.
Right?
Right.
All right. No, let's move on. All right. 1970s.
1970s, yeah.
So each of us. So let's go with Jordan, Tim, and then. So let's talk about our picks.
So I picked Pong. Pong is the 77 chapter in the book. Is the first chapter in the book. That is not the year that Pong came out, but that's the year of the the Atari 2600. So I thought that was just a really good spot to start, video game history in a way that wouldn't leave kind of a lot of weird gaps in the early period. But Pong rules. It's a great just sort of central mechanic. The way they kind of derived all these different Pong variants from it. I say it's like they got all the meat out of the Pong buffalo. I love Warlords as far as Pong variants go. But, Pong, like where else are you going to start with?
Tim?
Well, where else am I going to start with? I got Lunar Lander on here. And let me tell you, Lunar Lander came out in 1979, which is the year I was born. Anybody else born in 79 year? Anybody? I can't see the audience because we got one. What's it? Yeah, well, 79, yeah. So I didn't exactly play it the year I was born, but I played it in some arcades. When it comes to the 70s, so one of my criteria for picking games for this list when I looked at the list of years was I wanted to pick games that I still play as a person who owns a Mr. FPGA and has the requisite apps on my phone to scare my dog right now. I can launch a game in 3 seconds. I do play Lunar Lander like a lot. And the day that you sent me the request for the where you sent like the list of years, I had just played Lunar Lander like that day.
Wow.
Right? So I just like it. The early video games are all about, there's a lot of them about space. There's a lot of vector graphics. Lunar Lander is about space, and it has vector graphics. I love Asteroids as well, but I think Asteroids Deluxe is better. It came out 2 years later in 1981. Jupiter Lander by HAL Laboratory came out on Commodore 64 in 1981, and I like that game a little bit better than Lunar Lander because it's faster, if a little bit less exciting. But Lunar Lander has tremendous physicality to it, and that's what I would take away from it. It's like, I don't know, it has this blend of being space, but also kind of feeling like hitting balls at a driving range, like with a golf club, because there's just like you'd see how you can land, and then you just kind of chill with it.
Yeah.
It's a very meditative game, and I still like it.
Have you played the, I guess the spiritual successor in Lunar Lander Beyond that came out this year by Atari?
No, I did not,
Okay.
but I probably should.
It's pretty neat. It's pretty neat. I think once some streamers like pick that up, I think that game is gonna definitely be a big hit. It has like RPG mechanics and roguelike mechanics to the Lunar Lander.
They should just
formula.
be playing regular Lunar Lander on Misters. Is what the streamers should
Well,
be doing.
It's too hard. It's too hard for them.
Oh, it's
So
fine.
my pick is, I mean, straightforward. I mean, 1978, Space Invaders just completely upended the game industry. I mean, the Japanese government had to print more actual coins just because there was a shortage of coins.
Because of
regarding
Space
that game.
Invaders, yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, that's why. Like, what other game do you know that the government has to print more money because of it? So that's
Because it's so good that
It's-
we
yeah.
need more. We need
$2 billion in quarters.
beautiful.
we need some more small.
Imagine how that
denominations.
sounds ringing in a big, rich country's pockets, right?
So
So
the Space Invaders also has physicality
Yeah.
to it, because when you launch the projectile, you got to watch it, and the guy's moving, so you're measuring the movement of the guy, and you're trying to memorize the speed of the projectile. And then Pong also. All three of these games have a feeling of what I would define as athletic physicality.
With Space Invaders, I would say too, just as a very early game about shooting things,
Yeah,
a very foundational video game verb.
and they got it 100% right.
all right.
It's
so let's
100%
move on.
right.
Are we ready for the next year?
Yeah, why
Always.
not? What
the
is it?
actual year. All right.
Yeah, dude. yeah.
1986.
Oh my God.
Yeah. So Jordan, you can go first because me and Tim picked the same thing.
So I picked Dragon's Quest, the first one. That's also the chapter in the book is on that. I'm not a huge JRPG fan, as we also talked about yesterday. But
Boo.
you can't ignore just how important and foundational that genre is, and how important Dragon Quest is to just the creation of JRPGs. And on the way over, I was just thinking, like, it's so fascinating the ways that they found to take like tabletop role-playing ideas that predate video games and make that work, and not just like in a digital context, but in a console context, kind of in between, like, you know, PCs is more in depth and arcades is very immediate. Making RPGs work on a console is just such a triumph.
I love Dragon Quest in general, and I love Dragon Quest 1, but I decided to make a less obvious to me choice. This 86 is like basically all these years from 85 to 90 are just like too stacked, right? So 86 you had Zelda 2, which is an incredibly good video game that is sadly underrated to this day. What else did you have? Castlevania, Metroid, right? Like you had some. Wait, it was Zelda 1.
So the one came out in 86.
Yeah, Zelda 1.
Yeah.
Yeah. Zelda 2 was 88. I wanted to mention Zelda 2 if we were to talk about 1988. So there's Metroid, Castlevania, and Zelda. But to me, the best game I played in 1986, because like most people born in 1979, we didn't get a Nintendo until 88, right? Was like not everybody had one when they were 5 years old in 1985. But I had played Outrun in the arcade, and that's still one of the. It's again, fire it up on the Mister all the time. And it's I've wanted to drive a Ferrari in real life ever since, and I still have not. But maybe someday.
All right, let's do that
Maybe.
next weekend.
Maybe someday.
Next weekend, Tim. All right.
It's such a game.
It's
Isn't
the
it?
game. It's the game.
Yeah.
Yeah. My memory of this, I didn't play this actually till 1994 in the Dominican Republic, which where I was born, which has constant blackouts at that time. But there was an arcade close to where I used to live, and I would go. You hope you can get maybe like 15 to 30 minutes of a game, and then the lights will go off. So I would play this just nonstop. The only thing I would play, and when the lights would go off, I would still see the game on the screen. That's how much it captivated me. Like, it's really just.
You're saying rename the Tetris effect to the Outrun effect.
Well, it's
Yeah.
like you're playing it. It's like you do get into a zone when you're playing Outrun. You just, and it's just such a. It's not a breezy game. It can be pretty difficult, especially if you're not playing the excellent M2 Sega Ages re-implementation of the game, but it's gorgeous. Like, who doesn't just want to drive in a car and just like see like the scenery? It's a game that every month I just like pop on,
fire it
like,
back up and play it
yeah,
again.
like
I've
20
got
minutes.
it on. I've got Outrun 2. I think Outrun and Outrun 2 are the same video game in the nicest possible way, right? Where Outrun 2 is just here's some different graphics, and it's one of the most respectful video games of the player's time, which is kind of ironic given that it's got you run out of time and if you don't reach the checkpoint, but it's you can play the whole game in 15 minutes, 10 minutes, 8 minutes, 3 minutes, right? And it's just like, but I haven't played the whole game yet because I've been playing it for thousands of hours at this point, right? And it's just, I feel like in hindsight, this to me is a far more important video game than Super Mario Brothers. And I'm a Nintendo big boy, you know? I wear my Nintendo diaper every day as I walk through this world. And it's all about Outrun.
What do you think of Outrun 2006?
Outrun 2006 is...
Someone picked that for their guest essay in the
That
book.
game owned.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I saw that. Like, one of my things I wanted to do was try to not pick things that were in your book, but I said I would do it twice if I had to. And this was... I technically counted this. Outrun 2006 is a variant of Outrun 2, which I think 2006 is phenomenal. I really like the Windows port of Outrun 2006, Outrun 2. Any Outrun you can get your hands on is pretty good.
Yeah, it's worth your time. So if you haven't played it, try it out.
We have 3 versions in the free play
Yeah.
area in
There you go.
Famicom in the arcade mode, and I think one in a special Sega mode. So we have 3 versions of Outrun in the free play mode.
All
You
right.
can find it.
Fantastic
Thank you for
synergy.
sharing that.
Or get it on your Nintendo Switch for $5 or whatever, and
Yeah.
it's 60 FPS.
All right, let's go to 1988.
Claps for 88.
Zelda 2: The Adventure of Link. Sadly underrated video game, 1988.
not
it's not on
here,
this
but-
list, but
right.
it's here in spirit.
So
All right.
funny that you mentioned that because Mega Man 2 that's the chapter for the book, and that chapter talks about these NES sequels that were so different from their predecessors. You have Zelda, you have Castlevania, you have Mario, and those games are great. I love how different they are. But if you didn't know that going in, you could be very what is this? Not knowing what it was going to be. So Mega Man 2, not just a fantastic, iconic game, but a quintessential video game sequel that just says, you like this first one, we just made it a lot better. Here you go, enjoy it, and it's great.
They didn't do anything different or weird.
Right.
I mean, it's different robot masters every time, and it's different weapons every time. So they like the novelty in sequels is baked into the formula of Mega Man, which is, in hindsight, perhaps its primary genius, right?
Yes, I
So-
agree.
I think that's its main appeal. I think Tim and I have the same opinion about Mega Man, but I'm glad that somebody represents it here.
I said like one negative thing about Mega Man once, and I get an email about it like every other day.
We've had a
It's
pretty
like-
extensive conversation.
I was just
about
like,
Mega
I don't
Man.
like how you charge the gun and you're just like running, just holding it. You watch anybody play it, they're just like holding a gun charge. I killed a guy, now I'm going to charge my gun again and keep walking. And your guy's flashing all the time. It looks dopey. I said that once, and people are still mad at me about it. It just looks, but you don't have the Mega Buster to charge in Mega Man 2.
No, you don't.
Being
So-
mad about video game opinions is why we're here.
Yeah.
That's the whole point of this.
But how
So if
about
you like-
talk about your pick, Tim?
Talking about my pick?
Yeah.
Well, I could talk about your pick a little bit as well. You picked a pretty good one.
I picked
I was-
probably the greatest game ever
I
made,
looked
so.
at this. I opened this presentation not this morning. I did it a long time ago, immediately after you sent it to me. I didn't want to see what games anyone chose. Well, even though I already had read your book, so I knew which ones you chose. I didn't want to see what games he chose.
Yeah.
But when I saw Dragon Quest, I thought Dragon Quest 3. When I saw this, I immediately said, and I'd already thought it when I saw Outrun. I thought, is this my friend? Is what I said. So I was like, I did not play Super Mario Brothers 3 in 1988 because I'm an American man and we didn't have it until 89 when The Wizard came out as a big commercial for it. So, but I know that it came out in Japan in 1988, and you said 1988, and I can't ignore it. So I'm a big fan of iteration of games that kind of take a concept and go a little further with it. Super Mario Brothers 3 is one of the biggest historical examples of a game. It's Super Mario Brothers 1/2, but more, and it's with the mechanics all super, super refined. I think Super Mario Brothers 3 is the best video game of all time, and I've not changed my opinion about that for my whole life since the first time I played it. It's the foundation of just me thinking critically about anything at all, probably. As scary as that is to think, but it's I have a lot of contrary opinions, I believe, about video games, where I think, why don't we like this? Why don't we talk about this? We were joking, the slide with Ocarina of Time, we were joking about that. We're like, we need to take Ocarina of Time down a notch, because I had played Tomb Raider, I had played Super Mario 64, I had played Landstalker when Ocarina of Time came out. I was 19 years old in 1998. I just was not super impressed with it. I'm sorry. I recognize it's a masterpiece. However, coming up on 40 years later, Mario 3 is still the best game of all time.
It's so smooth. Like I played it again like a week ago, and I was like, can't believe this was made in like 1988.
Yeah, launch it on your Mister.
What's the argument y'all have for that over Mario World, which is probably my favorite?
Mario World's for babies. No, I'm just kidding. I'm kidding. I'm joking.
You got this theme, diapers, babies.
I wear my Nintendo diaper every day when I think about Mario Brothers 3. Yoshi's Island is Yoshi's Island is Super Mario Brothers 3 for like orchestra conductors.
I was about to say marimba, I think.
Right? And Super Mario World is Super Mario Brothers 3 for people who are not going to be reviewing video games for a living in 35 years. Does that make sense? It's one of the best video games ever made. Mario World. It is like it's splitting hairs here to try to be like which one's better, 3 or World. I like the strictness of Mario 3. I like the fact that in Mario 3 there's so few hammer suits or Tanuki suits in the game. I feel like playing through Mario 3 feels like playing a single player board game for me, in a way that's just very quaint, and every time I light it up I get to the end of it.
I mean, going back to what you were saying about like 70s games, just for me, NES games also that still hold up is also a triumph, and Mario 3 is definitely one of them.
It holds up 110%, I think. It gets better with age. But Dragon Quest 3!
Yeah, my pick, I'll say just a few things on it. I mean, it's definitely one of the most important cultural touchstones from video games made in Japan. A lot of you are probably aware of this. Dragon Quest is a big deal in Japan. I was just there a month ago, and just like the amount of people that you don't think are into video games not only know Dragon Quest, they play Dragon Quest, right? You wouldn't have that here in the U.S. with an RPG, with somebody that's not into video games. Oh yeah, but I play Final Fantasy.
You might run into a guy at like any gym in the Midwest who's played all of the Mass Effect games, but that's about as...
Yeah, but a guy at the gym, like, that's like demographic.
All these renegades.
Like, my grandma wouldn't play Mass Effect too, right? But if I had a Japanese grandma, she would play Dragon Quest, that type of thing. So this is really... So the first 2 Dragon Quests were really like an introduction to audiences in Japan about what an RPG is. This is the main course. It's like the other 2 were appetizers to get you, okay, this is how you level up. You go on this adventure. 2 introduced, the party and, getting your ass kicked every like 5 minutes. But this one is definitely the one that you have the class system, you have what we know now and we're so used to when it comes to like the RPG, mainstreamed and streamlined in a way that it's really accessible for a lot of people.
This is the one they're remaking this year, right?
Yeah, okay. Coming out in a couple months.
Okay.
I played it, and it's incredible.
If you've never played a Dragon Quest, and you need to play one. Your doctor says you need to play one right now. Play Dragon Quest XI. It's available on Steam. But if the doctor says you have a few months, start with Dragon Quest III. It's a really good one to start with, and it is programmed and designed by Kan Naito,
The greatest.
who made Landstalker, which is my favorite game of all time, which is we won't be able to get into
But,
today.
all
I'm
right,
sorry.
let's move on to 1991. Jordan, take it away.
We kind of already had our Mario World discussion.
Yeah.
So in the interest of time, I'm willing to cede my time.
All right.
But Mario World's great. It's the best 2D Mario game.
How about
You
you,
think
Tim?
so?
How
Yeah.
about your pick then, since Jordan?
Mine is Final Fantasy IV, which, if you're kind of a messed up person like me, you can't think of Final Fantasy IV without thinking of Final Fantasy II, because it was called Final Fantasy II when it was launched in the United States, as probably everyone here knows. But I always call it 2 whenever I talk about it, whenever I think about it. And I think 2 and I say 4. I love Final Fantasy IV because it's like the anti-Dragon Quest. It is just, I mean, I love Dragon Quest as well, but Final Fantasy IV is the most cinematic video game, the most cinematic thing I had ever seen in my life when the game came out. It felt more real. As an 80s child, we would just chain watch the Star Wars trilogy and the Indiana Jones movies after school just every day. So it's like, it felt like it just immediately vaulted itself into that canon of after school activity for me as a 12-year-old. And I still love that game. I think it's like a perfect blueprint for pacing in a AAA video game. And I will review this game on my YouTube channel at some point in the future. So, at some point in the near future, let's say. So, I have a little bit too much to say about it. Love this game.
You have anything to say about Another World?
Another World
My
is
pick.
another
Yeah.
one of my favorites.
Yeah, it's
I love it.
very
I
little.
love that game.
I like it.
Good game.
No, it's it's definitely a great game, and one that really got me into. It's not really. I mean, it's an adventure game, right? In all intents and purposes, has
Yeah.
some platforming elements and stuff. But I really enjoyed this game. I mean, just for the sake of time, I'm also just gonna say it's good. If you haven't played it, try it. I think this might be one of the more obscure games that are probably gonna pop
I
up
think
here.
it's like Final Fantasy IV. It's very, very, very cinematic.
It is very
and it's
cinematic.
like when you play it, I talked about this at some point in the past. It was like The Last of Us, the first Last of Us game has like so many Another World like plot beats in it. Like I don't know, I could get into this, but it's like modern AAA video games are still doing stuff basically the way Another
This
World
game
did. Narrative single player games anyway.
Where can you play Another World? It's on Switch.
It's
I
on
think it's
everything,
on.
yeah.
It's on everything
It's
now.
everywhere,
And you
yeah.
can usually find it for pretty cheap. It's
There's
a great
an
experience.
anniversary thing from
If you-
2021.
Yeah, as Tim was saying, if you play that, you're gonna get a better sense of like where narrative structures like fall in with like modern like games. So,
Understood. Drop the map, please.
I mean, that's my pick, but we're keeping it. Let's go, Jordan. Your pick.
Yeah, my pick is Metal Slug 1, which is not in the book. It's not one of the chapters in the book. It's just one of my favorite games. I was recently playing the demo for that Metal Slug Tactics game, and I enjoyed it. And I think like, oh, this is like Into the Breach, but they put Metal Slug sprites in it. But I'm like, they took Into the Breach and they put Metal Slug sprites in it. Like that's amazing. I think that game and like Street Fighter 3 to me have just some of the best like sprite work in a game. Those are the games I think of when I think of of 2D arcade games that just look better than their kind of console counterparts. I just love that game. I love how it looks, especially.
I love Metal Slug. I'm also a big fan of In the Hunt by the same artist, same team, which is Irem's submarine game. Does anybody know In the Hunt here? In the Hunt. We got a couple In the Hunt.
Claps for In the Hunt.
Excellent. Real good game. Love a side-scrolling submarine game with pixel art because I love vehicles, especially slow vehicles. You would think a game about a submarine would be boring, but they make it fun. There's a Hunt for Red October game for NES that's also pretty good.
Shout out
And
to Steel Diver.
Steel Diver is not the best, but I still liked it. I played it on principle.
Underrated Steel Diver.
I played it and I liked it, even though I wouldn't really recommend that here today if I had to. But speaking of vehicles that don't seem like they would lend themselves to video games, I recall reading in a magazine in the year 1996 that some crazy people in Japan had made a video game about driving a train. And that game was Densha de Go, which is, I started playing it a couple years ago. After thinking my whole life, I lived in Japan for a while, and I would see Densha de Go, and I bought Densha de Go on PlayStation, and I bought the controller, and then I just never really played it, and I started getting really serious about it. And
Did you get the hat?
no, but I do have the pocket watch. Like, I have the Seiko watch that goes in the controller, and I was gonna bring it, and it was on my desk. It's on my desk right now. I can scare my dog with it with the press of the, but it's not Bluetooth. But Densha de Go is, I mean, Gran Turismo is the Densha de Go of cars. Like, it came out after Densha de Go. I love calling things the Gran Turismo.
I was about to
of
say
something.
that's like a take a drink.
Boku no Natsuyasumi is the Gran Turismo of Animal Crossings. Death Stranding is the Gran Turismo of walking simulators.
Pokemon was the Gran Turismo of rock paper scissors.
No.
maybe?
A Pokemon Sword and Shield is the Gran Turismo of Pokemon Go.
Okay.
But I love Gran Turismo. But Jazz Fusion soundtrack, realistic vehicles, marquee release on the Sony PlayStation, Densha de Go did all of that. It has a beautiful Jazz Fusion theme song by Zuntata, the Taito's in-house band. And once you get into driving trains in Japan on your television, you play this on your Mister. If everybody has a Mister, get into Densha de Go. Like, I'm gonna say this: I don't smoke weed, but if I did, I would play Densha de Go while doing so every night.
Is that responsible though, Tim? Are you going to operate a train that way?
In
Well,
New
it's
York City.
simulated.
New York
It's
City it is.
in New York City. They give you a medal for that. But no, I mean, oh man, you don't want to get me started on Densha de Go
All right.
because I got too much. I could talk for like 10 hours.
Yeah, I'll just talk briefly about Parappa the Rapper, which is my pick.
That's a
It's-
great game. Fantastic game.
A beautiful video
It's
game.
the greatest game of all time.
Oh, you think so?
It is.
Even with all that input lag,
The input lag gives it
It's
that
hilarious.
extra.
a
Yes.
rhythm game with like 16 seconds
Where you're
of
just
input
like,
lag.
you press the button. It's like I did it. Times like you got it wrong.
I love
Kick
that.
push
It's like you're wrong, idiot.
wrong.
I mean, while
Yeah.
we're out here promoting books, Boss Fight Books has a Parappa book that's very good as
Yeah, I
well.
read
I think
that one.
Mike Schollers wrote it.
Mike
So,
Schollers,
yeah.
I love Parappa the Rapper, made by Masaya Matsuura. I met Masaya Matsuura 8 times, and I never told him. It just exchanged pleasantries with him, and I never told him how much Parappa meant to me. And I also never. I'm talking about him like he's dead. He's still vibrantly, luxuriously alive. He drives a Jaguar. I've seen it. So I mean, I talked to him once standing outside of his car. I never told him how much I like his music. So if you didn't know, if anyone here didn't know this, pretend you did. He had a band before, and that's why Sony asked him to make a video game. His band was called Psys, PSY.S. If you haven't ever heard them, go to Spotify and listen to their Golden Best. I would just recommend the greatest hits and then listen through the catalog. PSY-S or .S. It's a Japanese dot, so it's like it's really hard to look for on Spotify. But if you only have time to listen to one song, listen to the song "Woman S." The drum beat of which I play every time I sit down in front of someone's drum kit. That's how good Parappa the Rapper is. I got into that band because
of Parappa the Rapper. Yeah, I listened to the soundtrack and Parappa the Rapper 2 soundtrack. At least once a week when I go for a run in the morning.
Parappa the Rapper 2
Kick,
is
push, all that. Yeah, I just love.
Parappa the
those
Rapper
songs.
2 is totally slept on.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh man, fantastic video game. Jammer Lemmy's good as well, but
Yeah.
it's all about that P2.
So we're gonna skip to 98,
Yes.
and Tim, you can start us
You want
off.
me to start with one?
Yeah,
We're not going to talk about StarCraft?
you
Okay.
can start off just to give. Just
Okay,
to change
I'll
the
start
pace.
off. Okay, so the game, why not? I picked the game Machi for Sega Saturn, which is a game that I don't think there's not a fan translation for it. Is there? Does anybody know? I don't think there is.
I don't think so. That
but-
I'm aware of. No.
I know for a fact there's not. I was being theatrical. I'm sorry. There's not a fan translation for it, but there should be. And if somebody makes one, I feel like if I could get like 100 people to play this game, no one would ever shut up about it. Like if you ever played a 428 Shibuya Scramble, does anybody know that game?
Yeah.
Any of the Spike Chunsoft games? So this is the first game in that series. So this is the first one that came out in '98 for Sega Saturn. There were two games before it. There was Otogiri Soul and there was Kamaitachi no Yoru, and those were two sound novels in that genre, branching stories, full motion video. In this one, it is just a completely bonkers, dense, labyrinthine mystery, and it's directed, designed, produced, written by Koichi Nakamura, who was director of Dragon Quest 1, 2, and 3, I think. But he's a Chunsoft guy, and I'm a big Dragon Quest boy, and I always wanted to play this game, and I was about to say recently I did, but that was about 15 years ago. But about 15 years ago, I finally played this game, and if you're 15 years
Post COVID, 15 years.
I'm
is
about
like 2 years.
I'm about to be like, yeah, I recently played this. Like that would have been 2008. That was 16 years ago. I'm gonna
That's
die.
retro.
That
belongs here. This Expo.
I'm gonna have a transient ischemic attack right here in front of everyone. Why don't you? Not a stroke, not a full stroke. Don't worry.
All right, talk about StarCraft. Brody.
So part of the what's cool about picking this structure for the book of having one game per year is that I think it forces a lot of really interesting, hard decisions. And a year like '98, especially, you have the chapters about Metal Gear Solid, you have StarCraft, you have Ocarina of Time, which we've already kind of taken down a peg.
Let's raise Xenogears up a peg, though.
Right. So you just have like an embarrassment of riches for this year. But StarCraft is my favorite game probably just of all time. It got me into this whole genre. And the thing I think about most about StarCraft these days is just how like immaculately balanced it is. How they were able to create these three very distinct playing races, have them be very different from one another, and still be very balanced against one another. So just as a competitive game, that's so difficult, and they did it really, really masterfully, I think.
I love StarCraft, and as I said, a fan of iteration. Like they'd already made Warcraft 2, and then it's like this was like the realization of the potential.
I love the Protoss. I love their whole vibe. They're like predators that found religion.
Yeah.
I've never played StarCraft.
Any StarCraft?
Any?
What about, do you like other RTS games?
Yeah, I do.
Have you ever
It's
been
one of
to
those games I
Korea?
haven't played.
Because you can go to an internet cafe and play StarCraft, and it's a religious experience.
I've
You'll
been to
become a
Korea.
Protoss of Korean internet cafes if you were to play it there.
I just saw a Parisian internet cafe the other week when I was at the Olympics.
Oh, that
It was
rules.
very weird to see.
Is StarCraft an Olympic event
It
yet?
should. They are doing some sort of esports Olympics thing. I don't think they've said what
They don't
games
want to
are
have
yet.
guns in there or something.
I don't know. It should be all
What
fighting
game?
games.
Mario Kart 8, right?
It should
For
be
the
all fighting
Olympics?
games. It should be games that are very easily like readable to like an
Yeah.
audience.
I designed a video game just for the purpose of having it be in the Olympics.
What's that
and
called?
nobody took it seriously.
What's that game called?
It's a game nobody took seriously,
What's
so it's
it called?
fine.
What's it? We need to
What's it
say
called?
the
I've
name.
also wanna know what it's called.
It's called Video Ball. Yeah.
It's a great
I
game.
designed that purely thinking, what would a game that people play in the
I
Olympics
feel like
look like?
Olympics in LA is going to be your best shot to have people see that.
All right, boys, we're going to Los Angeles.
All right. So
Yeah, 4 years.
for you. So my pick is Panzer Dragoon RPG.
Good game.
Another of the greatest games ever made. Just for the sake of time, I'm gonna leave it at that.
in the year Xenogears came out.
Yeah.
People without Sega Saturns or people without PlayStations who had Saturns played Panzer Dragoon RPG.
And they were
And
better off. They turned out as better people. As a
I
result.
think 100% of the people who played Panzer Dragoon Saga in America in 1998 have never stopped saying it's their favorite RPG. I think 99% of them.
It's the only RPG that should be in the Olympics.
You know, I put $10 down on Panzer Dragoon Saga at Electronics Boutique at Castleton Square Mall in Indianapolis, Indiana. And the day the game came out, they called me, and I got in my car, my mom's Plymouth Horizon, and I drove it to the mall, and I walked in, and I was like, "You got that Panzer Dragoon Saga?" And he goes, "Oh, we just got one copy, but it was pre-ordered." And I was like, "Okay, that's my pre-order." He's like, "Oh, we sold it to somebody." So that's the story of how I never got Panzer Dragoon Saga and why I must disagree with its inclusion in this list.
All right. All right. So, on that note, we're in 2003.
Yeah.
And talk about WarioWare.
We were beefing about WarioWare right before this started.
yeah.
WarioWare is my pick. It's probably my favorite GBA game.
I can see that.
I don't like Mario Party. I'm not really a mini game person. But what to me WarioWare is like a academic sort of deconstructed mini game collection.
A private party, as it were.
Like it's like an antagonistic Mario Party.
Yeah.
So I find that just fascinating from a kind of design sense. What I like about it too is that it's a test of your like video game grammar in a way of just here's a situation, here is seconds to sort of
You have 5 seconds to figure out what to do with a Link on this screen of Zelda that has a cave in it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's go in the cave, right?
Right, but just being able to, just asking the player to just intuit those things.
It feels like video game SATs,
okay.
right?
I agree. I think there's a kind of like an academic quality to it, but that to me is funny.
The prospect of video game SATs is funny. I'm a bigger fan of Rhythm Tengoku, Rhythm Heaven. We have any Rhythm Heaven fan. I like that one better, and it's basically the same thing as agreeing that WarioWare is pretty good. I just give it a hard time because I'm on Team Rhythm Heaven.
Do you think Wario was just gross?
I love
Wario himself.
I also think Wario's nasty.
No, Wario is sexy.
Yeah, I wish I was more like Wario in real life.
You just don't care.
He's very Mediterranean.
Yeah.
And you eat so much garlic that you're gonna live to like 300.
I eat enough garlic, as it were.
Okay.
But enough about that.
I love that they gave him a new outfit also.
But speaking of garlic,
We're going to talk
let's
about a
the
man,
garlic
a
of video
goddamn
games.
man who eats garlic is Captain Falcon. F-Zero GX, little known fact, the GX stands for garlics because he's swallowing cloves.
As he's driving like
Yeah.
3,000 miles an hour
He's just chain smoking cloves of garlic.
into an asteroid.
Yeah, so this guy, so we picked the same game. I chose a different flyer for visual variety purposes. Mine features the Climax cabinet, which is what it's called.
Hey.
This is released by Sega. It was made by Amusement Vision, and it was directed by Toshihiro Nagoshi as his
Yakuza?
last project before he became full. He underwent a full body transformation into the Yakuza guy.
He changed his clothes and everything.
Is
like
Captain
his way he
Falcon the
dressed
missing
and
link
everything
between
changed.
the Monkey Ball Monkey?
Between the Monkey Ball Monkey and Kiryu?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think so. So I had
Captain Falcon is Kiryu's father. You heard it.
Yeah, exactly. I had the great pleasure to talk to Toshihiro Nagoshi before this game came out, and he was such a beautiful, wonderful, soft-spoken, like normal guy who had also made Daytona and Sega Rally and Super Monkey Ball. And I just think this is the best racing game ever made.
Yeah.
And if you can play it in the Climax cabinet, which is, again, they had there was Outrun 2, and then there was, what was the other one? Afterburner Climax, were like the 3 Sega games that were on these ultra premium cabinets in the early 2000s. If you are anywhere near Indianapolis, Indiana, As I know this guy will be someday. Or wait, if you're anywhere, I know there's somebody from Cincinnati sitting over here. If you go to Boss Battle Games in Castleton Square Mall, which is, yes, where I got ripped off of my copy of Panzer Dragoon Saga, but in roughly the same location where I was denied Panzer Dragoon Saga in the year 1998, you can play F-Zero GX or AX, the arcade version, on a deluxe cabinet. There are 4 of them linked together. There's nowhere else in the world you can do that. You did? Oh, you did?
He made the pilgrimage.
It's $7 an hour to play F-Zero AX in an area surrounded by a bunch of other games that are also good. But I love this game. It's a shooting game without shooting. But it's also a racing game with racing. So how can you can't beat that for value. And and I saw Toshihiro Nagoshi in 2019 and I said, can you guys get F-Zero AX in the Club Segas in Yakuza? And he goes, I really want to. And then he quit and started his own thing and has gone radio silent. So we can only assume that he's being paid massive amounts of dark money to develop an F-Zero GX successor.
I hope.
Right?
Yeah, Nintendo needs to do something about this game and just at least GX, and have like
We need
movies.
it. We need it.
Just really quick. So I used to drive 200 hours every 2 weeks to play F-Zero GX in Tampa, Florida.
You were Captain Falcon.
No, I was.
I think it's a
200 hours? You mean 200 miles?
200 miles.
200 hours? This leaves you little time to game, my friend.
I was dead by the time.
I think it's like a title that's passed. Whoever was mad that I was really I don't watch Pokemon. I did watch that F-Zero anime, and I think it establishes that it's like a title that's passed on.
The Captain Falcon.
Yeah.
Ah.
So who's
just like Speed Race.
It's a mantle.
I believe so. Douglas J. Falcon is one of them.
Doug Falcon.
All right.
Doesn't sound
Let's
right.
keep this quick. 1 minute for 2005.
Oh no.
Yeah, I'll just go first. Have you heard of this game before? On the right here. Well, is it a game? I guess that's the question. But it's. I mean, some would argue it's more of interactive media. This I know that someone had there was a panel yesterday on Iwata, and Iwata really pushed for this game to be on the DS.
It's because the guy who made it has the same first kanji in his last name.
Wait, is that true?
Iwai and
No,
Iwata,
but it's like,
yeah.
is that why?
No, it's not. No, it's that's why I would.
Yeah.
I'm voting for somebody just because the vice presidential nominee has the same first name as me.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So-
or they like the Dreamcast as it's
And
turned
oh
out.
yeah,
But
Dreamcast.
Electroplankton, it's one of those games that really showed where Nintendo was heading with the DS and eventually Wii era.
Yeah.
Which is you're gonna have games, you're gonna have great games, you're gonna unfortunately have a lot of shelfware, just like
a
really
lot of
crappy
shovelware
games.
stuff.
But you're also gonna have just games that unequivocally are also art pieces.
Yeah. Did you play Korg DS10?
No,
Yeah.
that I haven't.
Korg DS10. I basically, for like a year, it was just Korg DS10 and Electroplankton were like the only two things I did. You plug your headphones in. It's better than an iPod, man.
I'm gonna let you know something. Nintendo's probably gonna kill me, but it's this was gonna. So when the MoMA was actually starting to archive and start to select their games, noticeably there's Nintendo games absent for reasons I'm not gonna get into. But this was one of the 3 games that they were in discussion of bringing into the Museum of Modern Art. So
Yeah.
I think that's the first time anybody said that here. So you didn't hear that.
And speaking
Nobody's
of the museum,
recording this, right? All right.
speaking
let's
of
go.
the Museum of Modern Art, the box art of Steambot Chronicles. Come on, right? God darn it! Put that in the Louvre. Did you see that in the Louvre last week?
No,
Was it there?
but I did see a lot of people using the 3DS as their little travel guide.
Oh, that rules.
I didn't realize how like widespread that was. Like, oh, I thought someone just kind of
That
being cool.
No, that is how they do
That's
their
how
official
everyone
guides,
uses
their
it.
personal guide tours. Like
Everyone in the Louvre has
3DS.
3DSs. That's very aesthetic.
That
If
rules.
you can get that.
3D
You
photos
can get
of
that,
Mona
and it costs
Lisa.
like $7,000 on
Yeah,
eBay.
all
to try
over
to
the
get
place. All over the place.
But Steambot Chronicles is a JRPG made by Irem. makers of Disaster Report, makers of Kyoei Toshi. If you ever played any Kyoei Toshi fans in the Zettai Zetsume Toshi, we all know these, right? And is makers of R-Type. They made a big, weird, Ghibli-esque. I will say, at the time this game came out, I was employed at Sony Computer Entertainment Japan, and I got to play this game well before it was released for like a long time, and I can tell you that was a low budget video game with a lot of problems. I'm not going to leave it at that though. It's just the most beautiful game where it's like when you're 9 years old and you have an idea for a video game because you love Super Mario Brothers 3, like. And this group of 12, 13 people made this thing. It does not emulate well, unfortunately. It does something to the CPU. But if you have a PlayStation 2, hack it. And it's just a beautiful video game. You can build and customize a robot, walk around in it. You can play a harmonica in the city, and people give you money if you do well in the little rhythm mini game. It's just the most hangoutable video game that also has cool action. So, massive inspiration to me personally.
Jordan, Biohazard 4.
Biohazard, Resident Evil
3
4?
words.
No, I need more than that. I love how Catholic that game is.
Oh yeah,
it's super Catholic, and it's very scary for it. I will say this. I'm saying this because it's in the chapter, and not because I'm trying to keep up with your insane metaphors.
Yeah.
For me, Resident Evil is a Sylvester Stallone of video games, in that there's a lot of
Cobra.
It's a lot of crap. There's a lot of it. First of all, a lot of it's very bad, but when it's great, it's incredible, and it's managed to like reinvent itself like 4 times.
Yeah. Like I'm gonna say this full of like just. You'll hear the tone of my voice. Resident Evil 4 is trash, dude.
It's such schlock.
Yeah, it is. It is
in
like
the best way.
complete
Great,
garbage.
yeah.
But that's why it's good.
Yes.
Like it completely owns what it is.
Yeah.
And it's just the perfect action game. It's perfect.
Yeah, it's like if Alfonso Cuarón made a Roger Waters film, a John Waters film. It's just trash and the most immaculate Children of Man, but made.
They're eating
dude.
like poop. They're eating like licking poop off the streets.
Well, I meant like whatever. Let's just go on. All right, 2008.
Oh yeah.
So I will start. I will say that Burnout Paradise is the best racing game ever made.
Oh, you think so?
I think so. Yes.
You think it's better than Outrun?
Yes.
F-Zero.
Okay, maybe. I mean, I
Yes.
don't know.
For reasons that are specific to me, in that it has everything I'm looking for in a racing game, and none of what I'm not. I hate driving in real life. I find it very stressful. I don't care at all about like fetishizing real cars.
Uh-huh.
And I love open world games that are very much like player directed. So that game to me is great in that it doesn't have any foot at all in the sim world.
Uh-huh.
It has its fake cars, so you can just annihilate them, which is what I want to do.
Cars, yeah.
Just destroy them at very fast. And I think it's open world. It was to me almost like Breath of the Wild in the ways that it was inspiring me to just sort of kind of chase whatever I felt like doing was to me a revelation.
Outrun is open world if you're the sort of guy who never looks back. Take that to the bank.
That's beautiful.
Yeah.
Well,
Space Invaders Extreme was my pick. And then I said, I've already agreed with you twice, so I have to pick something else. So congratulations.
I mean, it's
I
the
know
greatest game ever made.
You like electroplankton, so you obviously like Space Invaders Extreme.
This is the greatest game ever
A
made.
beautiful thing
I
to
know
do
I've
with the
said that
Nintendo
like
DS.
7 times, but this is true. This is the set.
You put your headphones on for this one.
Oh, I do.
This is not a volume slider down.
I have a
DS game.
I have a room just for Space Invaders.
I'll go to bat for Space Invaders
Yeah,
Get
dude.
Even, if anyone remembers that game.
Yeah.
Yeah, that game's good.
Yeah, it's pretty good. Yeah.
I chose Bangai Spirits. Who's that in the corner up there? That's my buddy.
Odyssey.
It's my buddy Takahiko Inoue's Kaim in Hironobu Sakaguchi's Lost
Gooch.
Odyssey. the big gooch. We just have to have him on here because we love that guy around here, don't we, folks?
We do.
But Bangayo Spirits is the real deal. It had a level editor in it that within like 20 minutes of plugging the game into our DSs, first of all, if you're in the world in the year 2008 and you have a friend, I recommend you have a friend who is also excited to buy Bangayo Spirits so that you both buy it on a Friday night when you're 29 years old and you take it to your house and you order a Domino's pizza. And then within 24 minutes, my buddy got the game to crash because he made a level too crazy on his first try. And that's the kind of game you're smoking when you play Bangayo Spirits, which I wanted to include one treasure game on here, and I'm so glad that it was my favorite treasure game.
Shout out to Tom Fault, founder of Newgrounds, who has an essay in the book. He picked Gunstar Heroes and was talking about Treasure's influence on him. Not at Newgrounds or the Flash game stuff, but also the Behemoth with Alien Hominid and Castle Crashers and all that.
My second favorite treasure game.
Yeah. What about Wario World? We've talked about Wario World too.
Wario World, dude. That guy's hot. Wario.
Well, yeah.
Yeah.
Take your time.
Yeah, I think we might
really
be out of
fast
time
here.
soon. Yeah.
2013.
Yeah, 2013. So I was going to pick Pikmin 3 because that's my favorite Nintendo game, but I changed it just because. So this Papers, Please was actually the last game that I wrote about for Game Informer last year for the 10th year anniversary. So this is completely has nothing to do with the game being the best game of all time. I just wanted to just
really
mention
good.
it is pretty
Heck of a
great.
video
Yeah,
game.
Lucas Pope is a great designer. And his new game, what's it? On Mars? I forget that's on the play date. That's just on. It's pretty good as well.
If you haven't played Obra Dinn, that's another
great.
sweet
So,
one.
yeah, Papers, Please, good game, has a lot to say. Tim was telling me earlier, that's like the one game for people who are into video games that really makes them think about like the wider world, like in a different way. Like really gives you like really big thoughts.
It's an important video game. It's a smart video game. It's an artistic video game, but it's also really just kind of the loop is fun and rewarding, and it just feels fun to play the game. And it says tons of stuff about tons of stuff. So
Jess Joho has a great blurb on it in the book. I picked Fire Emblem Awakening. They once they let you pair them up and have kids in the future, that's the missing piece for me to care about Fire Emblem. So
Too anime for me.
Too anime?
Yeah.
Fair.
Oh. Well, I picked, you know what? I've been thinking about this for about 10 years now, and I'm nearing the end of my playthrough of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom, twitch.tv/action button. And you know what? I wear my Nintendo diaper every day. I put it on.
Full circle.
And I love Link's Awakening. But I think this is my favorite Zelda game. It's been 10 years. I think Link Between Worlds. Link Between Worlds came out on Friday, November 22nd, 2013. And I went to GameStop at midnight to buy it. Because it came out the same day as Super Mario 3D World.
Yes, that's right.
And the Xbox One. So it was the most I ever spent on video games in one day. I bought an Xbox One, Super Mario 3 with no games because, you don't need games for that. It's huge. It's hilarious. It's a conversation piece. So I got the VCR-sized Xbox One, and I got Super Mario 3D World for my Wii U, the best Nintendo I don't believe that. Sorry. And
The Virtual Boy is the best.
Virtual Boy. Wario Land, dude. No, but and then I got Zelda Link Between Worlds, and then I didn't play Link Between Worlds until I was on a flight for Christmas. And it is one thing you forget about Zelda that, because Zelda contains so many multitudes, is you forget that the original Zelda games, and especially Link to the Past, were made by people who had an incredulous understanding of what makes arcade games satisfying. If you play like Clue Clue Land or Balloon Fight or one of those crusty old black box NES games, those games are brilliant. If you play Link to the Past, which we just in the previous panel learned the name origin of, which was unexpected and fun. If you play Link to the Past, you feel a game that the arcade style action feel is so incredulously perfectly modern in it. And then when you play Link Between Worlds, which is 60 FPS and 3D on your Nintendo 3DS, it is just, the action feels so good. And then you could teach a whole college course about video game level design on like just the first dungeon from this game. Like, it is just one of the best holistic pieces of video game design I've ever seen. And I'm a little sad that they haven't ported it to the Switch. And I love Breath of the Wild and I love Tears of the Kingdom, but I would like a couple like this, right? Just a couple more. And they've got that Zelda one coming out soon, so I kind of get my wish. But love this game.
Last year, let's.
I mean, speaking of Zelda, Breath of the Wild, I love it. I think also.
Yeah, you can keep going.
Yeah. Going back to Link Between Worlds, that is also them trying to try out these ideas of how can we like kind of rethink the Zelda formula in this more experimental kind of 3DS game. I think also really paid off in when they made Breath of the Wild. Of like, all right, we're really going to break the whole thing down, really rebuild it, really rethink the whole thing, and I think they knocked it out of the park.
Yeah, just stay with Nintendo. Mario Odyssey, most underrated Nintendo game.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I'm finally starting to see people.
They should have got married at the end. They should have not did the fake out. They should have
Bowser
got
and
Mario and Peach. They did
Mario,
the little fake
Bowser,
out.
and
Mario.
Bowser and Mario.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that's who should get married.
They clearly have they've been hanging out for so long, right?
That's how you get Mouser, right? Instead of
a Mouser, Mario Bowser. I like Mario Odyssey, and I'm finally seeing people say, actually, Mario Odyssey is better than Mario Galaxy. I'm seeing people say that. Lots of people are saying this. It's not just me right here.
I wouldn't say that, but it's very good.
You would? Yeah, I really love Odyssey. I played through it twice, and I'm thinking of doing it again. 60 FPS on the Nintendo Switch. 60 frames per second.
how about your pick?
The gold standard. Well, I was just talking about the happiest day in video game history, the day that Link Between Worlds and Super Mario 3D World, two fresh new takes on Mario and Zelda, came out on the same day, Friday, November 22nd, 2013. And then in the year 2017, what did Nintendo do? They said, let's do that again, but let's stretch it out, right? So let's make a new console, because they had a Mario on Wii U, they had a Zelda on the handheld. They were like, what if we made a handheld that's also a home console, and we had a Zelda and a Mario again? And we took a whole leisurely 8 months to entice people into it. And that was a beautiful strategy. And I had a wonderful, remarkable, beautiful time with those two video games. Having said that, one of my key claims to street cred is that I did play Hollow Knight in 2017 on my PC. And that game grows, dude. It has obliterated all Metroids and Castlevanias for me. Like, no offense to those games. Okay, maybe that's overstating it a little bit, but that's the best Metroidvania style anything, and it's a beautiful game, and it feels ancient. And like when it was brand new, it just felt like playing something that had been around forever. Like when you first watch the film Conan the Barbarian and you hear the musical score by Basil Polidorus, and you think, clearly this must be some sheet music uncovered from the tomb of an emperor, right? Like they're converted into modern, from cuneiform into modern notation, right? No, Hollow Knight felt that way for me, as a player of Faxanadu and Legacy of the Wizard and Guardian Legend and the good old 8-bit games. So Hollow Knight is a game I fire up all the time and just play. Just mess around in there.
You don't have much choice right now.
What do you mean?
Waiting for the sequel, yeah.
That's never coming.
When it comes out, it's coming, and I'm pleased to announce that.
Like, you heard it here first.
So no, okay, I didn't mean to make this sound like a joke, but Hollow Knight Silk Song is available now.
On what?
On everything. It's out.
Wait, what?
I was told to announce it at this talk.
Oh wow.
That's not true. I'm sorry. It's not true. But also, I don't care. When that game comes out, I'll play it.
Whenever
right?
it comes out.
I'm not gonna yell
Well,
at anybody.
That's our talk, everyone. Hopefully you enjoyed it. Thank you. So just a little quick aside. So, the New York Video Games Critics Circle, I mean, we are an organization based out of New York City, and we are doing a back-to-school fundraiser for, kids in New York City. And if you're interested, please donate. You have anything to add to that?
Not about the circle. I mean, yes, please donate to the circle. You can also donate to me in that I have exactly 3 copies of this book.
We need
left.
them all sold right now.
People are raising their hands.
Oh no, it's too many people. Is it?
So I only have 3.
It's literally everyone in the crowd. I think I can't see because the lights are really bright.
Thank you for your interest. We will unfortunately not have enough for all of you here, but it is on Amazon. It's at Barnes & Noble. You can buy it. It's available everywhere. But I have 3 left physical here that I'm signing. I mean, Tim, do you want to sign them as well?
I mean, I can sign somewhere in there.
Cool. Thank you.
Yeah, I'll do it.
We'll figure it out.
All right. Thanks, everyone. Yeah, we'll be here for a little bit for questions and outside for questions and 3 copies of Video Game of the Year.